Greetings, I am Amber Bruto and I am collaborating with black metal artists. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing a band from Orlando, Florida. Can you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Kaleb Daniels. I'm the guitar and flute player for the black metal band Pontifex from Orlando.
It's a pleasure to have you. So for my first question, Pontifex is a new project from 2024. What was the vision behind forming the band and how did From the Pale Mist come to life?
My vision for this band has always been to make black metal that does not stay confined to one specific style. Black metal, in my opinion, is at its best when it rejects the dogma of standardized thought. Because of that, I always plan to have a sound that is familiar but still identifiable as black metal that innovates within the style by not sticking to the formulas that we expect with black metal.
I
From
love
the Pale Mist is a record that has been the result of many years of hardship and toil trying to find the right musicians for this band. I wrote the music over a decade ago, but working with musicians that weren't dedicated to the craft of black metal, I was never able to complete the vision that I had in my head for this album. Over the last 2 years, I've found the motivation to resurrect the music, and I found the core group of Pontifex.
Wow, that's a long wait.
It's just how it goes. It's a very demanding genre. If you don't have the right people and the right ideology and mindset for black metal, it's not going to work out.
I agree with that. For my next question, your sound blends symphonic black metal with thrash and death metal aggression. Which bands or styles have influenced your songwriting the most?
When I originally wrote From the Pale Mist, my biggest influences at the time were 𝓑𝓻𝓾𝓽, Immortal, and 𝓑𝓻𝓾. However, as I've been pairing music for the next few Pontifex albums, I've taken a lot more inspiration from bands like 𝓑𝓻𝓾𝓪, Odraza, and Old Man's Child. Additionally, I'm heavily influenced by the music of the Baroque era and the Romantic era of classical music.
I love that. Was that all for your response? Just want to make sure I don't want to interrupt you or anything.
Could you say that one more time?
I'm sorry, I was saying, was that it for your response? Because sometimes like there's like a pause and then I start talking and then the other person talks. So I want to make sure I'm not interrupting your response.
Oh, that yes, that's the entire response. Thank you.
Of course. The album features drum performances by Mike Smith of *𝓑𝓻𝓾𝓽. How did that collaboration come about, and what impact did this drumming have on the album's intensity?
The original vocalist of Pontifex from many, many years ago knew Mike. We could not find a consistent drummer during the original tracking sessions of From the Pale Mist, and my vocalist brought up the idea of hiring Mike. Mike is one of the best musicians in death metal, and his influence on the sound of this album was a great addition to our music. He brought a very powerful style to the music that was important to creating our driving sound, particularly on our songs Apparition and Abyssal.
Thank you. That's amazing. While there aren't too many details on the album's lyrical themes, can you shed some light on the inspirations behind from the Pale Mist?
Many of the lyrics on From the Pale Mist deal with the tragedy of existence. In some way, we are all suffering at every moment, whether it be physical or psychological. The lyrics of the album communicate that pain of existence.
Wow, that was deep. I like that. For my next question, you've chosen to remain unsigned. What are the advantages and challenges of releasing music independently in the extreme metal scene today?
There are many advantages to being independent and many disadvantages as well. As independent artists, we have complete control over our music. We don't need to comply with anyone else's thoughts on how we should create our art. Working without limitations is one of the greatest things about black metal, and remaining independent ensures our ability to go cultivate our craft. Additionally, as an independent artist, we're better to connect with the underground United States black metal scene. Black metal is thriving in the underground. And it's important that black metal never becomes something that is commonplace. We don't want to be the next pop music. We don't want to be death metal. We don't want to be thrash metal. We want to be our own thing. The biggest challenge that comes with remaining independent is distribution of music. While we've cultivated many strong relationships with various radio stations, magazines, artists, and promoters across the country, we're only able to produce so many physical copies of our music. There are limited methods of getting that into the hands of the underground scenes. Black metal is very strong in the United States right now, but because the country is so widespread, that makes distribution of music very difficult.
I agree with that. And a lot of people do digital, but I know people want to like collect the copies.
Yeah, we do everything on digital as well, but nothing will ever replace physical media.
Oh yeah, never, never that. For my next question, tracks like Sepulchre of Eternal Darkness and Abyssal evoke a strong sense of atmosphere. How do you balance aggression with symphonic and ambient elements in your compositions?
Aggression within music is about intent. The symphonic elements of the music should embellish the aggression and help contribute to the overall impact of whatever riff or song is being added to. If you write riffs that have the intent of being aggressive or full of hatred, you can easily add the symphonic elements, such as choirs or pianos, to create a sense of dread or etherealness within the music.
I agree with that, especially the piano part. It gives it,
Piano is a very powerful instrument.
it really is. Do you have plans to take Pontifex to the stage, or is it primarily a studio project for now?
Pontifex performs live very frequently. This weekend, we have a 3-day run throughout the state of Florida with our colleagues 𝓑𝓻𝓾𝓽. They're another black metal band from our area. And we're finalizing booking for a summer tour in support of our second album, 𝓑𝓻𝓾𝓽, which we'll be releasing this summer.
That's amazing. That's exciting too.
Yes, we're looking forward to being out there working with all these other bands within our community and building those relationships. It'll be a great time to spread the gospel of black metal.
Definitely. Your second album, Covenant, is set for release in summer 2025. How will it expand on what you introduced in from the past, from the Pale Mist? My apologies.
𝓑𝓻𝓾 takes everything that we established and from the Pale Mist and refines it into a much darker and more powerful sound. We've cut some of the death metal influences to focus on a more black thrash style with this album. We still have the symphonic elements, primarily choirs and piano, but many of the songs on this album didn't need symphonics. I believe that unless the song calls for it, adding symphonics is unnecessary. It needs to call for adding that stuff. Recently, we brought in a new vocalist who much better matches the vision that I have for this band. You'll hear a much more primal and much more traditional black metal vocal approach with this album. Our live drummer, Rosalie, is making her debut on this album as well. She delivers an incredibly powerful performance with groove-based drumming throughout the album that is very new and exciting for black metal drumming.
That does sound very exciting, actually. So for my second to last question, did you approach the production of From the Pale Mist with a specific sound in mind? And will Covenant follow a similar approach or take a new direction? Which you kind of spoke about in the last question.
My ideology on production is that the music should sound clear and refined, but retain the grit that makes extreme metal extreme. Too many bands are releasing music that sounds artificial and overproduced. Black metal, it needs to have some rawness to it. If we have clean back black metal, we might as well just become death metal bands. 𝓑𝓻𝓾 takes this approach that we use in From the Pale Mist, refining the sounds of the guitars, the bass, and the vocals as we've learned more about the mixing process. And you can really hear this evolution of our sound on our newest single, Night's Embrace.
And that's available on your
That's available direct from Bandcamp. It's on Spotify and all streaming services as well.
Amazing. For my final question, for those who haven't heard From the Pale Mist yet, how would you describe it in one sentence, and why should fans of extreme metal give it a listen?
From the Pale Mist is a visceral combination of black thrash and death metal that strives to innovate within the genre. Fans of extreme metal music who are bored by the stereotypical sounds of extreme metal genres should listen to our music because it is different, and we're not afraid to ignore the rules and the formulas set forth by the creators of these styles. It's music written for the purpose of art and dedication to the craft of black metal. It's not written to be commercial or to align with anyone's preconceptions of what we should sound like.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that.
Thank you.
That is it for our interview.